we like Putin, we think there's a lot of corruption, they almost all got arrested. So Putin wants to say, hey, look, the West is not that much better than us, so, you know, if we can show chaos in the West, that helps Russia. And you may say, sit there and go, well, Warner, you know, this is all right, but how are we really sure? We have 100% consensus from the intelligence community. And if you don't accept that, let's look at what's happened since our election. And this is when my background was technology. I'm a believer in the power of technology. I think the tools of technology have really helped move our society, help us get better connected. But let's just take Facebook for a moment. Facebook, right after our elections, kind of said, I like Mark Zuckerberg, but kind of said, hey, we got no responsibility here. But since November till May, when the French elections took place, Facebook realized, hey, you know what? This is a real problem. Just as Facebook finally realized, you know, you can't take postings about child pornography and leave them on people's accounts without taking them down, and then started to say, you know, hey, if we see terrorist postings, we may need to take it down. And you may have seen after the last attack in the UK, the Prime Minister said, hey, companies, you got to step up as more. What happened in France was France has an election system where in the last 48 hours before the election, you're going to have no TV commercials or campaign ads or campaign reporting. So what the Russians did in France was they waited to drop all of the garbage they had on the guy who won, Macron, until 48 hours before the election, the Friday before Sunday election. But what had changed was Facebook realized it was enough of a problem at this point that they took down in that last weekend 30,000 fake accounts. I met with the head of the German services recently, and the Germans have acknowledged their whole parliament, it's called the Bundestag, has been penetrated by the Russians. And their elections, where again it's going to be clear that Russia wants to see that the Chancellor of Germany, Merkel, is not reelected, they're going to come in and try to mess there. And here's what you ought to try to wrap your head around this for a second. If you add up all the money that the Russians spent on trying to disrupt the American election, if you add up all the money that the Russians spent on trying to disrupt the French elections, if you throw in prospectively, and let's say they spend 3 times as much trying to disrupt the German elections, and you add that all together, you're talking about less than 5% of the cost of a new aircraft carrier. Now listen, I believe we need to have a strong Navy. I support aircraft carriers. We build them in Virginia. We port them here in Norfolk. But as you guys think about what 21st century conflict may look like, the power of information, disinformation, fake news may have as much power and frankly on a return on investment as firing a bullet or shooting a rocket. And we are going to need to sort through this in ways that, again, not Democrat or Republican, but it's future past. We're going to have to ask the companies who are in the technology community to be partners because government alone can't figure this out. We're going to have to ask all of you, and you guys probably do, but I'm sure your parents don't, the whole notion of personal cyber hygiene is going to have to become a reality. When the price of oil dropped dramatically and the Russian economy was under huge stress, the one area they did not cut back on, they cut back on guns, tanks, troops. They did not cut back on their investment in cyber. Think about tomorrow if not Town Bank, or not Wells Fargo, but if a small bank in Virginia Beach or in Norfolk, if you had cyber criminals, and doesn't have to all be nation states, it could be criminals, could come in and completely wipe the ledger clean of a bank, and you then went to your cash machine and couldn't get cash out, or you sent a check over and that record of your check being sent to the utility company disappeared. The ramifications of how that could spread in our society are huge. How many of you have heard of the Internet of Things? Any heard of that? The Internet of Things is basically the idea that almost every device we own is going to be connected to the Internet. And we know cars are already connected to the Internet. We know that, anybody who's got an Alexa, listen, it's always listening, is connected to the Internet. But your refrigerator is going to be connected to the Internet. Your washing machine is going to be connected to the Internet. At the recent Consumer Electronics Show, they showed hair dryers that are connected to the Internet. Why do you need a hair dryer that's connected to the Internet? I don't know. But we're going to go from 10 billion devices to 34 billion devices connected. Every one of those devices, most all of these, especially cheaper devices, they have no security built into them. Most of them have passcodes that even if you wanted to try to change the passcode, you couldn't change the passcode. If we have 34 billion devices in our society that are all vulnerable to criminals or foreign adversaries, how do we protect ourselves?
Right.
So these are some of the issues that I'm trying to sort through in this investigation, as well as the fact, and this is where I will make at least an editorial comment, there's not a member of the Senate that I know of that doesn't accept the premise that the Russians interfered in our elections. The only elected official that appears to still not accept that premise is the President of the United States. Now, I don't know if there was collaboration, collusion. That is what we're looking at. But we are not made safer when the Commander-in-Chief refuses to acknowledge that the Russians massively interfered in our elections. I think it has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. It has to do with whether we're going to keep ourselves caught in kind of a 20th century mindset, or we're going to deal with a 21st century mindset. The other issue I want to raise, in something that where I actually thought I would be spending all my time. I believe that the quality of the political debate in our country right now is not very good. That's shocking news. I also believe that too many of our issues, from healthcare to transportation to tax code, both sides, the Democrats and Republicans, have got totally established positions, and unless one side completely wins everything, we're not getting much done.
That's right.
We passed the Russia sanctions bill this week. That was one of the first major things we've done in the whole Senate this year. Here's what I believe that where our political debate ought to head. And I stand before you, if you buy Will's book, as somebody who has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of our system. I was first generation in my family to graduate from college,
Right.
Came out with student debt, had to pay it back, started a business, failed a couple of times, managed to get into cell phones, did better than I could ever have imagined. I kind of lived the American dream. But in 2017, that kind of free enterprise, modern American capitalism, I'm not sure it's working for enough people. And my fear is that means, particularly young people who feel, hey, this isn't working, that means people end up going to the political extremes, on the right or the left.
Yeah.
So I could wave a magic wand where I wish our political debate was headed and what